5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Good evening or morning, everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of Truth, Beer, and Podsequences. I am Julia, and I'm here with my favorite co-host of all time.
Well, thank you, Julia. I'm Marco.
What you're about to hear is going to be a show where Marco and I recap the Cincinnati craft beer podcasts that have been released in the past week. We're going to talk about Sonder stories and shift beers, and that's all we've got.
Yep.
It was kind of a light week, but there was good reason for that. We're going to go into a little bit about the latest beer festival that happened this past weekend that we were lucky enough to attend, Beer, Booze, and Bonks. So we will go over that after kind of our normal intro to the show. Mm-hmm. As always, we are hosted by the amazing, wonderful BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery. Producer Bryan is behind the bar pouring the most fantastic drinks, including their own cold brew coffee, which Marco is going to be bouncing off the walls here in about 5 minutes.
I'm hoping so. I'm going to talk about my full-time job. So I'm a brewer in the Cincinnati craft beer scene, but I also have a full-time job. My full-time job is in retail, so I am gearing up for Black Friday. So I'm exhausted already. Absolutely exhausted. Got some cold brew coffee in me. Producer Bryan serving it up nice and cold.
Yeah, and speaking of Black Friday, this episode, you may notice, is out a little bit earlier than normal. Normally, I post these Friday evening, but for those of you that are in line for all of the amazing Black Friday releases that we let you know about on our 0.5 episode, I'm releasing this Friday morning to ensure that you have something to listen to while you imbibe in a lot of dark beers.
Yep.
On a wonderful, crisp, cold Black Friday morning. Speaking of beers...
Yes.
It looks like your cold brew glass is empty, but you have another glass next to you.
I do.
What you drinking?
I am drinking Sam Adams Oktoberfest. It's up on the board here. Märzen 5.3% ABV. I'm drinking it because I have, separation issues. So, I'm still hanging on to Oktoberfest.
And it's a very good beer. And also, the tap list right now at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery is still absolutely ridiculous in the best way possible. If you can have lactose. They still have a bunch of beers from their 4th anniversary on hand. So I am drinking a 12% Imperial Stout from Hubbard's Cave called French Toast. It is sweet. It is thick. It is very good.
Yeah, the board's real thick right now.
It's a very thick board.
Yep.
So since we already mentioned what podcasts that we're going to be covering, we mentioned the drinks that we're going to be having, we mentioned our producer and this lovely, wonderful smelling space that we're in.
Yeah, fresh smelling.
Very fresh smelling. Thank you to the Cintas guy. Do you want to dig right into Sonder Stories?
Yes, let's get to it.
So this is Sonder Stories Chapter 80, Part 2 of their 3rd anniversary series of episodes. They did it in 2 different parts. The first part of the podcast had Justin, Danny, Haley, Zach, and gorgeous Dylan, who never skips leg
Beautiful
day.
Dylan.
Beautiful, beautiful Dylan on the show. There were some interesting bombshells dropped in the first section of this particular episode. The first one being, so one of the first things that they actually get into is Zach has made some basement quote unquote workout videos during COVID.
Yeah.
That apparently, if you are lucky enough to get an invite to the Sonder Stories After Dark podcast, soon to be a YouTube show, you can possibly get in on what is all involved in these basement workout videos that Zach's been up to throughout most of COVID.
Yeah, you can't see this unless you subscribe to the Super Platinum Patreon, but I have the air quotes about to happen here. Air quotes for he is a physical education teacher, and so while working remotely, he had to come up with videos.
And he said he's not afraid for people to scroll through his phone to see them, but some people just have no shame. Some people don't mind you seeing what they do behind closed doors. So
it's also what you would say, of course, this is the trend with Sonder Stories where you say something and you just say it confidently and just move on. He's like, no, you just go through my phone if you want.
Yeah, and because like, there's so much confidence, people are like, well, I don't.
Well, no,
I don't
we
know
believe
if
you.
No, it's cool.
You
we don't need
you
to see
keep the phone. I believe you.
Yeah, and then they slid him another protein shake. Well, no, that's Dylan.
Yeah,
Zach
Dylan
doesn't do protein shakes. Maybe he does.
Not that he said on the show.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say that he does then. If you're going to do workout videos, you got to be drinking protein.
Yeah, drinking protein.
Sure.
And didn't Beautiful Dylan didn't he go to the Master Brewers Association conference weekend?
Yes, he did.
Bizarre.
He did. It was very bizarre.
Yeah. He went up there. So it's a very calculated move by the Sonder team, what of their moves isn't very calculated, right?
Yes.
To send Beautiful Dylan up to the Master Brewers Association conference weekend getaway at the spa and resort up in Cleveland, which I didn't know they had a spa and resort in Cleveland.
All that's up in Cleveland is a burning river. There's really not much else.
So maybe this is like a Motel 6 or something with a conference room.
Close enough to it, yeah.
So, but that was very calculated on their part because they see the energy and the passion that Beautiful Dylan has going into the craft of making beer.
Well, and when they send the most gorgeous person that works for the brewery up to that, the intimidation factor alone from
Exactly.
That, yeah.
Exactly.
So, cheers to Sonder management and leadership for making the right call on that. Something that the right call was not made on the show is we never got closure on a very critical question or issue that was presented between Haley and Tim. Mm-hmm. We need to know if Tim was able to watch Haley's cat.
That's right.
We never got the answer to that.
So every communication that Haley tends to send is going to either CC or have Danny as part of a group chat in it. I guess to keep tabs.
Not, yeah.
Yeah, whether it needs to be or not, just to keep tabs. You know, as sort of like somebody who keeps the minutes or the records. And so Haley was in need of a cat sitter, and they never said, whether it was Danny that took care of it, because that's the other thing that Danny does too. So not only does Danny have this wedding business where he can be a stand-in at your wedding.
Which, if you're confused, check out our previous episode where we went into detail about Danny being a professional wedding attendee.
That's right. And if you are getting married, check your calendars, get on his list quickly. If Tim couldn't watch the cat, then Danny was all about, stepping in and cat sitting.
Yeah. A couple of things that they talked about in their anniversary shows. They ask the members that are their questions about some of your best memories. What's the best beer that you've ever had, whether it's Sonder beer or not. One of the really cool things that they did for this show was they said, what are some styles of beer that Sonder has never made that they would like to see Sonder make? And the list I thought was pretty good. A dry hopped Hefeweizen, some type of a smoked beer, an amber or an Irish red, a triple New England IPA, and a Maibach, which...
Also, with Beautiful Dylan being very involved in the craft, he had studied a beer sort of documentary, How Beer Saved the World, and there was this experiment that I believe Charlie Bamford did out in California where they took duck pond water and made a beer out of duck pond water. And so when they get their test batch system, Beautiful Dylan wants to be the leader in the project in making a beer out of duck pond water.
I say he goes for it.
He's going for it. He is. He's going for it all in.
Do they have their pilot system yet, or are they still setting that up? Because that should be the first thing that they put into that band.
Justin was making it sound like this is an upcoming pilot system. Everything, as they were talking about with the brews that they haven't brewed yet, they have to balance in the schedule 30 barrels. Like it's going to be whatever they make has got to be 30 barrels, and they have to be able to know that they're going to run through that as quickly as they would some other beer.
Right, and they talked a little bit about having to ensure that if they want to brew one of these other styles, that they don't know how quickly it will sell, be it in the tap room or if they put it out into distribution. They need to make sure they know, hey, Kroger or some of these bottle shops need more You Betcha, for example.
Right.
And they need to make sure that they have enough of that product in hand for distribution before they can even start thinking about taking their entire, I don't want to say their entire system offline to make a brand new style, but they have to be very conscientious of the scheduling, the amounts that they have to ensure that we all get the Sonder beers that we absolutely love, both at Sonder and at our favorite purchasing locations, I guess, which would be a store. If words would...
Usually, or it's the trunk of somebody's car. It all depends.
Oftentimes it is the trunk of someone's car. Very shady. Very shady.
Yeah. But I mean, they use a square. They have a square.
God.
Venmo
it. So that was most of the first half of this episode of Sonder Stories, the first group of people. Was there anything else that struck a chord with you that we haven't brought up yet?
Haley got in there with a lot of good points. They do talk about some of the stories of the past year, and Haley's got some great ones. I'm not going to spoil the whole episode. That's not what we do here on Truth, Beer, and Consequences, but I do want to say that, I mean, certainly Haley's voice was well, she brought a lot to the episode. And so just because we talked mainly about Zach and Beautiful Dylan, I mean, Haley had a great part in the show.
She always has a lot of really good, like you just said, a lot of good stories, a lot of good insight, a lot of good reflections on Sonder, how they're doing, where they're going. And it's always really nice to hear what she has to say about the company.
Yeah, and she plays such a huge part in, as we talked about just a few moments ago, about the calculation of how everything happens.
Correct.
So it's really interesting to hear how she talks about some of the execution of the space, which is Sonder. So
Right. And some of the literal physical space, such as the expansion of their outdoor beer garden.
Yes.
So all of that stuff she plays a heavy hand in, and she's killing it. She's absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
Then they kind of took they did their What Are You Listening To with that group, and then they moved on within the same episode to group 2, which is Macy, Maggie, and Steve. And Maggie and Macy are kismets, which no one really
don't
understands
understand
it. It had something to do with buffalo plaid.
Yeah, buffalo plaid. They show up dressed similarly or exactly the same.
I think that's just called twins.
They finish each other's sentences.
Mm-hmm. They finish each other's beers.
Yeah, they tend to eat. Share meals.
Yeah, like they get a foot-long sub, and each one goes from one end, and they meet in the middle. It's an interesting dynamic. I mean, I'm glad that they're such close coworkers that they were able to find that kind of synergy with each other.
Yeah, breakfast hot dogs. They share breakfast hot dogs.
That one was a little
Justin dives into breakfast hot dogs.
Yeah, he does.
And I don't know.
They're not really my thing, but hey. Whatever works for you.
I don't know. With some eggs, maybe some. You got some eggs, some hot dogs.
Well, but
maybe some huevos. The eggs are the huevos, and you get the beans. You get some beans and some chili sauce.
Do you put ketchup on your eggs? This answer could change the entire course of what we do.
No.
Okay.
No.
Good.
No.
Good. Thank you.
Put salsa on my eggs.
That's different than ketchup.
I grew up putting salsa on my eggs.
Yeah, that's fair.
And bananas.
I grew up watching my mom put ketchup on her eggs, and I never did it. So, I mean, you could have bucked the system, but it's cool.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. Salsa is a totally different animal than ketchup, so I'm cool with that. Speaking of breakfast, they have a King of Beermosa sales.
That's right.
At Sonder for the morning, early afternoon shift. Steve wears that crown. He can sell anyone a Beermosa whether they want it or not.
Yeah. This is one of those things. First of all, true. He is the number one Beermosa salesperson according to those that are keeping count over at Sonder. I just want to say that I think this is a little bit more of, when you talk about some of the sports ball things where you say, hey, did this team win or did the other team do more to lose? And I think given how he presented his pitch for Beermosas, I think the rest of the team just needs to step it up.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, come on now.
100%. I mean, anyone. I feel like selling a Beermosa isn't necessarily a challenge. Like I feel.
No, I'm not downplaying his accomplishment, but
no, not at all. But I think that the way he sold that, the way the presentation was that he gave to Danny on how he would get someone who might not walk up to the bar saying, I want a Beermosa. I mean, it was brilliant. It was one of those things that just a little bit of effort from the rest of the team, and I mean that it'll be full of the kings and queens of Beermosas. No? Marco's shaking his head at me. No? Okay.
No. I mean, listen to the episode, decide for yourself. I'm telling you, if you put a little bit of effort to it, you might be able to sell this guy under the table. I don't know. Maybe not.
But
I don't know.
Or listen to the episode, listen to this segment of Sonder Stories Chapter 80, and decide if there should be an entire royal family of Beermosa sellers, kings and queens, or if like the Highlander, there can be only one.
There can be only
and that
one.
one is Steve.
There can be only one.
Okay.
I had this reminds me of a story back early 2000s because I go way back. We had a friend, my wife and I, Rachel. Shout out to Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
We had a friend who worked at Chili's, and they were having a contest, and whoever sold over the course of, I don't know, a month or whatever, whoever sold the most Presidente margaritas, they got, I don't know, some pen and $100 or something like that.
All right.
So all of it, we all had a group of friends, and we all showed up, and we just threw down on some Presidente margaritas, and oh God, was that a terrible idea? But he won.
Nice.
He won, and I would love to see if Sonder at some point adapted this sort of thing, and then made sure that they offered some piece of flair to the winner,
Yes.
so that you knew that this was the real king or queen of the beer moses.
Because if you think about it, if you walk up to the bar and you see a bartender that has an extra piece of flair, an extra piece of something, you might say, hey, what's that? That's a really cool pin, hat, scarf, whatever it may end up being. And that'll strike up that conversation. Oh, what's that for? Oh, because and they could just say they make the best beer moses out of all of the staff, just kind of a little fun there. And that could make that patron say, well, now I want one.
Right, and you
So
can
it's a
add it to your
win-win.
Twitter profile.
Yes. Not the same as a blue check mark on your Twitter profile, but saying that you are royalty of the beer mosas is definitely something you should shout about.
Yep, so get on it, Sonder.
Quick question. Do you know what a hummingbird cake is?
I know that they spent about half the episode trying to figure that stuff. It's a Cincinnati staple,
That no one
the
in
hummingbird
Cincinnati
cake.
knows about. I've heard of it. I've never had it.
Never heard of it.
But I also am part of team, this is not a Cincinnati thing. So, yeah.
I wonder if the other podcasts that we listened to one time ever covered it. What is it called? That's So Cincy?
That's true. We should
Hummingbird
reach
cake.
out to them. Hey, if anyone from That's So Cincy is listening to this, have you heard of hummingbird cake? And is it a Cincinnati thing?
I don't know. It's weird. They said it got carrots in it.
Yeah, that's what turned me off. If it was just like pineapple and other fruits and all that, I'm in. But you don't put carrots in a dessert.
Pineapples, carrots,
I don't know.
black beans. It's all strange.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Well, the black beans are for like the hummingbird's eyes, like a
I
representative
got
of
it.
that.
I know.
It still just doesn't make it sound any better when you know what they're going for artistically. But, thought I would ask about it. And, Steve, we got confirmation from the Pepper King himself,
Yep.
Bryan here at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery.
Below.
It is Scotch Bonnet.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing there.
No.
It's a Scotch Bonnet.
Well, I mean, I guess for them, pronunciation is not as important as it is here on Truth, Beer, and Consequences. So it's okay. We're here to set the record straight for you.
Some Scotch Bonnet.
The
Hell, Scotch Bonnet. Where did no, he was playing. He put that in the show just so when people listen to the show, they're like, did he just say Scotch Bonnet?
Oh,
What
it's like
is
one of
that?
those things that gets people just like turned and like makes them angry because that's not how it is, and they're screaming at which I admit I was doing. I was like, that's not how
We
you
don't
say
know
it.
anybody that does anything like that on purpose.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Scotch Bonnet, get that shit out of here.
It's not even the same accent for both words. It's like you can't. How you gonna do that?
I don't know.
I don't know. So we're setting you straight. Scotch Bonnet. Done.
Fight me.
That's it.
Come at me.
We'll throw it down. They did their typical, again, for Macy, Maggie, and Steve, they did What Are You Listening To? And there was an incredibly interesting selection for this one, which I have heard before. It's been a long time. But it was a song choice that astounded. I mean, pretty much everyone was speechless when Danny started playing it at the end of the episode. And rightfully so.
Except for Danny when he went, what the fuck is this?
The most words of a speechless man I have ever heard.
I mean, I'm stuttering right now because I was just thinking about listening to that damn song. I'm like, what shit am I listening to?
You know what it reminded me of? And not that it's the same song in any way, shape, or form. The Narwhal song that they played on Shift Beers. That's what kept going.
Okay.
It's kind of in the same vein as
sort of like the
that.
genre is
Absurdity.
childlike behavior.
Yes.
You damn cheering. What? I just look. I mean, you listen to the episode, and you'll as soon as this, I'm stuttering because this is unbelievable. How just flatly ridiculous that thing that they're calling a song is.
Marco, the man of a million words who always has something to say, has nothing to say about hotdog.jpg.
That thing was, oh, Jesus.
It was a thing. I mean, we'll leave it at that. It was a thing, 100%.
It's one of those things that probably has this ridiculous cult following because of how just ridiculously stupid it was.
I mean, I'm not going to say I like the song, but I'm not going to say I dislike it. It's fun. It definitely is.
Oh, it's better than anything REO Speedwagon ever put out.
Or
They
Hall &
suck.
Oates.
No, Hall & Oates is great. REO Speedwagon sucks.
Speaking of musical stuff, I got my tickets for the new 21 Pilots tour as they will be hitting Cincinnati again in August.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, I am beyond excited. Fun little thing is one of my friends that we met up in Columbus for the show that we went to, month-ish ago. And she wasn't able to make the Cincinnati date. She lives in Indianapolis. She was not able to make the Cincinnati date because her kids are going to be in school. So they're going to go to the show up in Detroit. So she got her. She was able to get her tickets. I was able to get my tickets. Her for the Detroit show, me for Cincinnati. We both have a seat 16 in our respective cities. So,
oh, wow.
And she'll be seeing the show the day before I'll be seeing it. So I'm like, it's like we will kind of be seeing it together, even though we will not be seeing it together. So I thought that was kind of a fun little twist of fate.
That is pretty neat.
Yeah, so very excited. Very, very excited. Yeah, hotdog.jpg, the song that no one knows what to do with, including Danny TikTok Harold.
And it just kept going. I mean, they just...
they let it play for quite a while.
I feel like Justin was intentionally making the show longer just so that thing could keep playing in the background.
Well, what else did you have for Sonder stories?
I can't wait to listen to the next episode because
Yes.
I know in total they sat down and talked with about 20, 22-ish
people.
team members,
Yeah.
which was representative of about almost half the staff.
Yeah, and I mean,
So-
it's team members from every single different working group there. It's not like they just talk to the owners and just to the heads of the production staff. I mean, they're making sure that everyone stays involved with the celebration of Sonder's anniversary, and I love that. I love it so much.
I do as well, and I don't really know how I feel about the fact that they recorded all these episodes prior to the anniversary, and then all of them are coming out after the anniversary, because it's sort of one of those things where as you listen to them, you're happy and you get excited about the anniversary, but that was 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Now, I'm not asking them for any production changes or anything like that, but what it does do is it certainly accomplishes the mission of the show, which is to get you interested in the people, the stories that is Sonder, right?
Right,
And
right.
that's every person has a story. That's the meaning of Sonder, and so it is doing that, and it's really bringing to life what I think the show overall was meant to do when it started, which is great.
I agree, yeah. But it does, like, they'll mention, like, oh, what beer are you most excited for
Yeah.
release? And they'll mention something, and I'll be like, oh, man, maybe, I'd like to try that. And then you realize it was a draft-only release, and it is no longer on tap, or it was part of a can or a bottle release that, sold out, and maybe they'll come out with it again next year, but probably not. They'll probably do other special variants of stuff that will be bigger and better.
I don't know how to do it any other way necessarily, because you want to capture the excitement of building up to that week.
I agree.
So again, this isn't criticism. This is only just mentioning the way that the show strikes me and the thoughts and the feelings that I get when I listen to it, through the excitement of everybody that's talking and the recollection that they have about the previous year, and all of that is so cool and so interesting. So go listen to it, decide for yourself.
Yeah, and then keep listening. They have several more episodes that will continue to cover their third anniversary as they talk to more and more of the fantastic folks that make Sonder what it is. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. Marco and I are still good with our beers, so we are going to roll into touching on a non-Cincinnati beer podcast that I absolutely love this show. I know that you've listened to a couple episodes as well. And so I wanted to give another huge shout out to the Newbert Report. They're based out of Canada, Saskatchewan. I apologize for skewering your fine city's name. And they're a podcast that covers Canadian craft beer and sports, mostly hockey. So it's not entirely in our lane, but as a podcast, I guess kind of family, we all support each other. So they mentioned us a couple times on their show. So I want to make sure that I congratulated them on episode 70 of their show.
All right.
They have done an excellent job. Congratulations on that. Though I will say for episode 70, you would think that they would know what they're doing by now.
I don't know.
There was
Probably.
There was a full 10 minutes of silence at the end of the podcast episode. And I kept waiting for something to happen. Like maybe it's like the end of an Avengers movie or any Marvel movie, to where if you sit and wait, something amazing is going to happen.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
Oh, okay.
So they video record their podcast and they have it up on YouTube.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, let me go to YouTube and see if maybe they had the volume down and they were doing stuff there. Nope, nothing.
Yeah.
So
just out there.
I'm going to need you guys to make a pro move here and figure out this whole silence thing. It was a hilarious episode. They went over if Die Hard is or is not a Christmas movie. Is 100% a Christmas movie. We would love to try some beers from Saskatchewan if we can figure out if we can send them across the border without them being seized or anyone get into any kind of legal trouble for that. So we are 100% down with that. Justin, I am so sorry that I infringed on your crispy can cracking phrase. I did not realize that was your thing. It just seemed to be a very apt description for the way the can that I opened sounded. I called it crispy, and Justin from the Newbert Report said that's his thing.
Okay.
So I apologize.
All right.
And instead of a T-shirt with one of our names being a thumbs up or a thumbs down, we're in this together, man. How about both thumbs up? Team Julia, Team Justin, thumbs up all the way.
I'm down for it. Thumbs up.
Would you also be down for Marco Freeman to be on the Newbert Report? Because they mentioned that as well.
Oh, sure. Oh,
Nice.
sure. Yeah.
To the Newbert Report guys, I know you also mentioned that you needed to have Josh on the show as well. I can guarantee you that Marco is much more reliable than Josh, so I say hit us up at Truth Beer Pod. You know how to get a hold of us, guys.
Yep.
Although it would be awesome to have you and Josh on the same show together. That would be absolutely ridiculous.
We could do that. We've done that before.
We have done that before.
I have listened via podcast form to the show. Not the show in particular is speaking about. I did not listen to all of the shows this week. I'm having a very busy week.
Yes.
So I did not listen to that show, but I have listened to their show via podcast form, and I have watched the show on YouTube. Depending on what your preference is as far as any given moment, both are great.
Yeah.
So take it in whatever form you prefer.
Yep.
And have fun with it.
I will say on the YouTube show, they do show the cans of what beers they're drinking, so you actually get a visual as well as just listening to them describe the cans and what's going on with that. But yeah, definitely want to give the Newbert Report a shout out because they support us. They shout us out all the time. We want to make sure that we're giving them the same love back. So thank you very much, guys. Congratulations on 70 episodes. And hopefully we'll all find a way to record together sometime soon. All right. We have returned once again from a seconds-long break where I had a glass of Toppling Goliath's Witch's Broom IPA at it was either 8 or 9%, 7.8, 7.9. Couldn't
7.8.
quite. 7.8. Thank you very much. In my glass. Have not had a sip yet, but I'm sure it's very good. You have a very interesting package. Well, not package. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me... Jesus.
Hey, now.
It is... So it's very tall and it's somewhat thick and it's wrapped very well.
Hey now.
Marco has a brown paper. Justin, I'm going to say it. That was crispy.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, we're throwing down with the Newbert Report.
So yes, so I grabbed something out of the cooler, and thank you for the compliment, Julia. I have the Narragansett.
Sounds right.
Narragansett.
Sounds right.
Beer. The beer that was in the Jaws movie, or the movie Jaws. And I guess some brewery has a whole claim to fame for said beer. I'm going to go ahead and give it a taste here. Let's see. Does it beat the worst beer or one of the worst beers we've ever had on this show? Does it?
Let's find out. I mean,
is it
that's
better
a high
than
bar.
the Trejo beer?
Good God, I hope so. Because that's a big ass can.
Man, I tell you what, it certainly gives that beer a run for its money.
Nice.
Well, it's cracked open. It's going to get drank now. Good God.
We can't waste a beer. I mean, we don't have Brian's office floor to pour it on like the shift beer folks do. So
right. Or Brian's butt to luge it through.
So speaking of, I guess, Brian's butt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about shift beers.
Okay.
They did yet another Seltzer episode.
They did.
Which I thought they said they weren't going to do too many more of those, but I mean, they always
ideas.
These gas station singles. So they are limited. So they did 2 holiday flavored seltzer packs, one from Truly, one from Bud Light.
It's very timely. You know, they get seasonal packs. You do a seasonal show. I mean, so depending on the season, you can throw down with some of that stuff. You know, as the spring comes, they can do another seltzer show with some of the spring flavors. And, you know, as fall comes, they do some of the flannel flavors that Bud Light puts out or whatever.
Let's go into the flavors in these 2 mix packs. The Truly holiday mix pack had pomegranate, holiday sangria, cran orange, and apple spice.
That was my nickname in high school.
Oh. The Bud Light seltzer has cranberry, sugar plum,
also
eggnog, or seltzer nog. Sugar plum or cranberry?
Yeah.
Because you're a little tart sometimes.
Ooh.
A little bit tart.
Ooh.
And cherry cordial. First off, we have to address kind of the elephant in the shift beers room. The most important player of shift beers was not able to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, made me sad. I almost didn't listen.
Yeah.
Because I love Beth so much.
But they made it sound like Beth was a little under the weather.
Yeah, hopefully she's feeling okay. So Beth, if you listen to this,
she just came off her birthday.
Yeah.
So hopefully she wasn't sick for her birthday.
I mean, hopefully it was because of her birthday she was feeling under the weather, if you know kind of the path I'm taking there, and it's not like an actual illness.
Yep.
But Beth,
I got what you're saying.
Hey,
I got you,
yeah,
Julia.
you know. But no, Beth, we have
how many adults raise
better.
your hand if you take off because of hangovers?
I mean,
I do not.
So what I do when I have a hangover is I walk up straight in Clifton in the rain in 30-degree weather because I am not a smart person.
I saw those pictures.
I'll tell you what, the shot of Fireball at the
that was
start,
necessary, right?
That helped.
I bet it
100%.
did.
I'm like, this is either going to be a great idea or a terrible idea.
It was a great idea.
It was a great idea.
Yeah.
I got warm. I got to the top of the hill in under 8 minutes.
Little hair of the dog.
Little hair of the dog. Yeah, that was fun and stupid. And I say I'll never do it again, but I will definitely do it again. So to actually try to tie this back to shift beers, so they tried the mixed packs of both the Truly and the Bud Light seltzers. Bryan put a lot of stuff in his butt, which they kind of covered pretty early in the episode. They started off strong with Bryan and his butt antics.
Yeah. I mean, right from the get-go, too. Just right from the beginning, they were like, nah, this is the show. We are going to burp.
So for those of you that, if this is your first episode and you're thinking, why in the hell are burps so important? We came up with a drinking game for shift beers that has to do with the number of burps per episode, which when we do the actual burp count later on in this segment, we'll go into that into a little more detail. But they knew that seltzers bring the burps, and they were ready to go. If you want to know how they did compare to the previous seltzer episode, hold on to your butts. We will get there.
Oh, yeah.
First thing I noticed about the episode, even though Beth wasn't there, and she is typically the one that really appreciates the can, like the actual package of a beer,
Yep.
they fanboyed over that Truly can for longer than their drinking segment.
Yep.
Which normally drinking lasts between 20 and 37 minutes out of their hour-long episode.
I know.
Like 20 of those minutes this time was the can's black and it's look at the gradient and it's shiny and oh my gosh, so
Right. And the shadowy this and the mess with the can.
Yeah, yes. Beth, you have broken those boys. They now care about the cans more than what's inside of them, which is, it's fine.
Well, they're talking about seltzer, too.
But it's seltzer, exactly.
And hey, by the way, Truly's got a budget, big budget.
Yes, they do. They have a very, very big budget. Let's see, what else? As they were drinking these seltzers, they actually brought up that Caroline from Craft Parenting Pod is going into the $4.99 Patreon tier, but before she contributed that money, she needed to know some of the logistics over the perks of the $4.99 Patreon tier, which I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, this is a public service announcement right here. Julie is about to break it down.
If you subscribe to the that's $499 per month Patreon level. I want to make sure no one thinks this is a $5 thing. That Patreon level, Chris will murder someone for you. Just one person, not every month you pay, you get a new target. But Caroline was wondering, does she have to pick that person immediately when she signs up? Can it kind of be used at a later date?
Right.
Which is why she hadn't signed up for Patreon yet, because she's like, I don't want to sign up and then have to immediately go this person when
you could be a little hasty.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, a little
exactly.
hasty.
So Chris was incredibly verbose in his description of no, and I'll kind of cut it down for you guys. No, you don't have to use the murder benefit immediately.
Right. He's more like on a retainer at that point.
Exactly. He is there for you when you decide this is the person, this is the entity, this is why I am paying you $499 a month.
Right.
So very important thing that they cleared up on that.
This is an important conversation. I'm glad they're having it.
They haven't had any new Patreon content since doing the video recap of the Banger in a Box, so hopefully they're working on some new stuff because that has all been incredibly fun.
And speaking of Banger in a Box,
do not tell me that was your nickname in high school.
No. But no, they had a little bit of imaging that they brought in that they mentioned me.
Yes.
Because of the imaging for Banger in a Box.
They did.
Not going to spoil it. Just listen to the episode and you'll hear it.
I will say that you are making an appearance in pretty much all of the Cincinnati craft beer podcasts, which is pretty awesome. I'm proud of you. You are being noticed. Sky's the limit now.
Well, thank you, Julia. I mean, you're coming with me, Julia. We're doing this together. So.
Well, you see, this is your moment in the spotlight. Mine's coming up in just a few short days when we start Beervent season.
Oh, I can't wait.
That's when the ridiculousness of my Facebook posts will reach an annoying level of creativity and
our downloads are going to probably shoot through the roof.
We're going to get like 5 more per episode. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be amazing.
So speaking of amazing and awesome, did they ever say, actually, this could be good Patreon content. Josh, okay. I'm taking credit for this one.
Okay.
I want to know if they did make a burp track.
Oh, yeah.
Crank the bass level of it up and play it in Chris's office. If you do that, that track needs to go out on Patreon.
Yep.
Yeah, so Josh, A, did you do it? And B, if you did it, when can we expect to see it on Patreon? For the 3 of us that give you money for your extra content.
Yeah, and so in the episode, they make it known that Chris has a giant bass speaker. A
big old subwoofer.
In his office?
Yeah.
For what? For just like... I mean, what are you?
I don't know what he's playing and that he needs it, but
listens to ska music. I mean, what are you talking about?
Right, ska really. When you say, man, the bass in this, the bass that my system can produce is bumping. I don't think of ska.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Ska, punk. That's not the
bumping
musical
his real big
path
fish
that I'm going to. You know that he's doing like some Big Bad Voodoo Daddy or some like swing, like early 2000s swing type shit in his office.
I think he's doing Wham.
Oh, God.
A little Careless Whisper.
Oh, jeez. Probably isn't. He just doesn't want to admit it. He wants to still be one of the cool kids, and it's like, dude.
What are you talking about? Careless Whispers?
It's
a banger.
It is. I'm 100% not arguing with you on that. Did you listen to that song that I sent you, that I texted you a while back?
Like 55 years ago?
Yeah, like
you sent it to me while I was at my full-time job, and I pulled it up and I started listening to it. I got about halfway through it.
And then you went, fuck this.
I didn't say fuck this. I didn't say fuck this. It was like I got paged at work, and then I never got back around to the second half.
All good. Just curious. That's all. I love music. Music touches my soul. I love sharing music, and when I hear something that I think someone might appreciate this, it might not be completely down there, completely in their wheelhouse, but maybe because of other things they like, it's close enough to where they might find that they enjoy this as well. I love to share that out. So yeah, all good.
As long as you don't send me any REO Speedwagon.
No.
I don't need that because they suck.
No, I would never stoop to that level. The level that I would stoop to, though, is throwing down when they said that that Cintas is a mafia organization.
Oh, fight me.
Just because they do not get the same quality care at their location that we get to appreciate here at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery. That's something that you guys need to talk to your site ownership about. Get a better contract.
Chris manages that crap.
Well, shit, Chris. Come on.
Chris decides. He's like, no, he ain't doing it. And it like
we'll have Cintas come in once every other month. Maybe they'll change out the urinal cakes.
Josh came in like he's this hype man. He's like, no, it's just racket, dude. It's just racket, man. He's like,
it's like no. It's because you got to respect the people that keep your establishment clean. If you're not respecting the Cintas guy, yeah, you're screwed. It has nothing to do with
respect.
RESPECT. The Cintas guy takes care of me.
Sock it to me.
Oh, he's getting out the fake keyboard. To try and kind of get this back to something more podcast specific.
Yeah.
Shift Beers is always one of the most fun shows that we listen to week after week. I don't think that there's any question about that. This week, if you don't have time to listen to many podcasts, I'm not even saying to listen to the entire Shift Beers podcast. Listen to the last about 3 minutes and 30 seconds of it. It is the most fun, genius thing that I think that they have ever done.
Yeah, I creatively that
they brought it.
I didn't expect it, but it was just a joy when I was riding into work. That transition happened. It was fantastic.
I mean, just when you think that Shift Beers couldn't get any more fun and you couldn't have any more fun listening to the show, they do this. Mm-hmm. Bravo, guys. That
well done. Job well done.
That was awesome. So really, the last 3 minutes, 30 seconds make the entire episode.
Before we get into it does. Mm-hmm. You're right, Julia. And before we get into the burp count, I just want to say, the whole show really seemed like they were centering around not so much the seltzers and how it tasted. It was more about getting the burp count up. They wanted to down a team member. They wanted to break their record, and they were lobbying from the very beginning for if it's an extended burp, if it's an aggressive burp.
They wanted bonus burps.
They wanted extra points. Yeah, and you're not getting them.
Well, I even have written down. I wrote this down because I put the burp count, the little tick marks in the border of my notebook.
I didn't bring my
this
book.
This week's title for the burp count is Seltzer Sounds, because I always write something goofy about the count. I actually have written down, do I give them bonus burps for the volume, the pressure, and the fact that they chug seltzers and that half of that CO2 probably came out the other end and we just, thank God, do not know about it. But the more I listen, and they actually brought that up in the podcast, that they thought that they should get some bonus burp counts for some of these. They said that after I had already written that down. But as I listened and as I counted, I wanted to talk to Marco about this. I didn't want to make this executive decision without him. I even have written down, like, hey, if we added 5 bonus burps, if we added 10 bonus burps, this is what the count will be.
Yeah.
We both decided, we both had the same idea coming into it, that they do not get any bonus burps. And we'll tell you why. So first, Marco, do you want to explain the burp count, the drinking game, before I get into the numbers?
I would love to.
Yeah.
So if you're back with the show, you know what's going on. Thank you and welcome back. If you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. The burp count is what it sounds like. You listen to Shift Beers, or we listen to Shift Beers. We count every audible burp, and then the drinking game is the average sip of liquid is about 2 ounces. What we do is we count the number of burps, translate that to the number of ounces, and let you know how many pints, not 12-ounce cans, pints of beers you would go through if you were doing the drinking game along with shift beers.
Yes. And the seltzer episodes do tend to be the higher burping episodes just because of just the way seltzers are. So I actually looked back to their last seltzer episode, which was their episode 46. We covered it in Truth Beer Pod Sequences episode 4. And this is a peek behind the curtain, guys. Back then, we made up the burp count numbers.
What?
Well, this one.
No.
Well, for them, episode
Really?
46, the Seltzer Show, they said that their goal was 69 burps.
Oh,
so
69.
we said, oh, they got 169. They got so many more. So what I did, to be fair, because they were talking about how they wanted to break their record.
Yeah.
I re-listened to episode 46, the last Seltzer Show, which, as we learned, was not the last Seltzer Show.
And as you learn, Julia's dedication. I mean,
yeah.
This is real, folks. I mean, in it to win it.
I listened to episode 46 of Shift Beers again to get an accurate burp count. I even have it like remarked. I mean, Mark is looking at this. I have it remarked in my notebook, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you get the hash marks. Yep. That's the way you take inventory, by the way.
So that episode, that Seltzer episode, with all 4 of them, Josh, Chris, Beth, and Bryan, they had 71 burps, which was 8.875 pints of whatever your liquid of choice is for this drinking game.
Nice work.
The other records for shift beers that surpasses even that one.
Oh, you're going to give top performances.
Yes, top performance.
Oh, okay.
Well, because they were saying they want to break their record, so I want to make sure that they know where that bar is set. The last record that surpassed even that one, this is their top burp count show of all time so far, was episode 56, which had Marco and Lee on the episode.
Lee.
So they had 6 people total there. That was 78 burps, 9.75 pints. That's with 2 additional people. Episode 59, this most recent episode of Shift Beers, more seltzers, down Beth. They were down a person on this one.
Yep.
The reason they are not getting any bonus burps is because they had a total 70 burps.
Whoa.
70 on the dot, which means
Whoa.
140 ounces, which means 8.75 pints.
Wow.
Wow.
That's excellent work.
They did it really good.
And Bryan was plugged up the majority of the show. It's like, I don't know how,
he couldn't do it.
I don't know if he had cheese earlier in the day or something, but I mean, he just complained the whole show that he needed to burp and he couldn't relieve himself.
I mean,
it just wasn't happening.
They were shaking themselves. They were doing, I don't know if they were doing what's the Goonies thing? The truffle shuffle. I don't know what they were doing to try to break these seals.
They were doing the Macarena.
But I'll tell you what. Good job, guys.
Hey, Macarena.
I'm not saying good job to you for that one because that song needs to die in a fire like 300 years ago. But no, amazing job. We all know they were chugging the seltzers. Like they were pouring like the 1 can into 3 cups to split it between them. They were downing them. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were going for. So seltzer episode with just 3 people, 70 burps, hell of a good job. When they were at full staff many, many weeks ago, 71.
Yep.
So I think that if you do another seltzer episode and Beth is up to being there, sky's the limit. I think that they can break that 78 all-time record.
Yep.
Without even trying.
I think they can. And the other thing I think is that Bryan needs to see a doctor.
Yes, it did. I was a little concerned.
There's a little gastrointestinal thing that, I mean, he needs to see a GI person.
Yeah.
You know, you get that fixed, man, so that you can contribute.
I wonder if that's why he's like, for a lot of the shows, he's like, man, I got to go home. I got to leave. I'm wondering if that's why. Maybe it's like an IBS kind of thing or a lactose thing. Or
an ulcerative colitis or something.
He's allergic to seltzers. I don't know. But yeah, so Bryan, we are a little concerned about you. We want to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah.
Because we want to keep hearing.
You can't expel gas.
Yeah.
And then you have the muddy butt.
The gravy legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. hell of a good show. And I want to keep harping on this just because it was so fantastic. If you don't have time to listen to the entire Shift Beer show, listen to the last 3 minutes and 30 seconds of it. And then when you do have time, listen to the entire episode because it's great. It's amazing.
Look, we all need something fun, a little bit of an outlet, right? To just take some time and just laugh, right? This, for me, is one of those things, right? This show, Shift Beers, it's just listen and be ready to have
laugh,
fun.
Yeah,
be ready to laugh.
Laughing out loud while I'm listening to the show just because of how fun it is.
I think it would be fun over the holiday season for the listeners to just, instead of having music in the background, drop Shift Beers in the background and just wait to see what family member says, what the hell are we listening to?
Marco, we don't have any other podcasts to talk about. It was a very light week.
So what we're going to do, what do you think, Julia?
What was that? What we're going to do? What we're going to do, what Marco's going to say.
You never know.
Oh, man. Hey, at least you're not singing stuff about cutting holes in boxes this time.
Oh, I can't wait till I get the time. I can't wait till I get to do that again.
What we're going to do is take a quick break, and then I think we both want to recap a little bit about our weekend and the Beer, Booze, and Bonks Festival because it was a great time, and we want to make sure we promote it so that when it's time for it to happen next year, you're ready, and you will buy your tickets the day they go on sale. So hang on with us, and we will be right back. All right. I think that we need to talk about the Beer, Booze, Bonks, Boinks, Binks, Banks, Boobies Festival that we have been talking about for multiple weeks now.
Yes, we should. Love beers, booze, bonks, boobies, all those things. It was kind of funny, too, because you and I and your Josh, I Ubered to the event, and we got there. I mean, within
about the same
time. 60. That's crazy. How we had that body clock
I'll
somehow.
tell you what, it did kind of ruin my whole plan. My plan was to walk into the Fowling warehouse and to like text you, hey, where are you? You were going to say you were already there, and then I was going to scream, Marco, and just wait for you to reply back, either Polo or Freeman.
Ah, yes.
However, like you said,
or the rest of the Fowling warehouse would reply that way.
It would just be a nightmare. But no,
these are my people.
We arrived within 2 or 3 minutes of each other, so that was awesome. Let's take it through,
through the event. Okay, so
because we want you to go next year because it is going to be bigger and better than ever.
So you got your tickets online at thenarlygnome.com/tickets, and you signed up for your session. There was an early session and an evening session 6 to 10. VIP access got you into the early session earlier and into the Kick the Keg event after the second session was over, which is 10 o'clock. So everyone's in line to go into the Fowling warehouse, which, by the way, if you've never been to the Fowling warehouse, you're going into a industrial park area. So don't get weirded out by the fact that you're passing a lot of industrial park warehouse type dock door business situations.
Once you get inside of the Fowling warehouse, you realize that it is the perfect kind of space for what they're doing.
We all lined up, and then it was time to open the doors and let everyone in. You had security there that was checking your ID. Once they checked your ID, then you moved on to the portion where they were scanning your QR codes for your ticket access, general admission, second, first session, whatever, and then VIP.
Not VIP. Right.
Not VIP,
right.
whatever.
Mark you off.
Then you would get your wristbands for those sessions, and then VIP or whatever.
Got your taster glasses.
Your little cups, and you were off to the event. To the Fowling warehouse, I the first time I'd been there, but essentially in the middle of this open warehouse space are fence and cage and netting and all that. From there, all of the vendors were set up on the outside of those fenced off or caged areas. Each end of the Fowling warehouse has a bar.
Correct. And each of those bars had a mystery beer machine, which the Gnarly Gnome covered it extensively in, I believe, both a blog post at thenarlygnome.com as well as in one of his episodes of Cincy Brewcast. But
The
instead
Cincinnati Brewcast.
the Cincinnati Brewcast, as I like to say, and I don't know why I say it every single time.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We're good.
What they did for the event, though, is instead of having like a price range for these mystery beers, the two curators of the festival, the Gnarly Gnome and Cincy by the Pint, both filled. Each one of them had a fridge, which I think it was all kind of shared. I don't know if it necessarily mattered which side you were on, but you got two mystery beers, one from a Cincy by the Pint mystery machine and one from the Gnarly Gnome mystery machine. And it could be anything from an absolute...
let's just tell them what we got.
Yeah, okay, let's do that.
You start.
I actually did really, really well with mine. I got a Bumbleberry by Fatheads, which I absolutely love that beer. And I got a session IPA from Founders. So I did not bad with the beers that I got.
Pretty good.
Marco and my Josh were not as lucky.
I had a Ice House. You remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that, kids? Back when you had an Ice House?
And it was probably back from like 20 years ago. Do they still make that?
Yeah, the date on the can
they had to dust off
expired in
96.
96. I had an Ice House, and then I had a Shiner Bock. So it could have been worse.
It could have been worse. You could have gotten what my Josh got, which... Man, Josh, I had so much fun with you there. The first beer that he got from the mystery beer machine was a Colt 45.
Because he's a smooth malt liquor picker.
Hell yeah. And the second one wasn't terrible. It was just a standard Budweiser. Wasn't,
Yeah.
Could have been another Colt. Could have been something better.
Could have been Steel Reserve, which somebody around us got a Steel Reserve.
And someone also got a... Oh, shit, what was it? They left their can just on the bar. Solid Gold.
Founders. Somebody got a Founders Solid Gold
and
left it on
left it on the bar. They're like, nope, not doing it, left it there, walked away, which we said would be awesome for part of the after party is you just start collecting all the cans of the quote-unquote bad beers that people were like, I'm not drinking this, and then just dole them out and chug them during the after party.
Yeah.
I'm in. But that was a lot of fun. That was a really fun part. And most of the beers, I won't say all of them, because some of the beers were not as exclusive as others at the festival. But I would say probably 75 to 85% of the beers at the festival were beers that were specifically brewed for beer, booze, and bonks. Or craft cocktails. There were a couple of craft cocktails there that were really, really good.
I think it was... a really fun event. An example to play off of what you were talking about is Rheingeist had a oak-aged lavender smoked Helles.
It was probably my favorite beer of the entire evening.
It was my favorite beer of the entire evening.
Yeah.
And the representative from Rheingeist was saying there were 2 kegs of this that went out. Mm-hmm. One went to, I think it was Fobab, and then to the Beer, Booze, and Bonks and Boobies Fest.
And then there were a couple other breweries that had beers that you could get, like Sam Adams Cincinnati. And this was something that was very cool. It was not Sam Adams that was invited. It was Sam Adams Cincinnati Taproom specifically. And the beers that they had are beers that I believe are either available in cans or that you can get at their taproom. So it wasn't exclusive to the festival, but it's still not something that is as widespread as You Betcha from Sonder, which nothing wrong with that beer. It just wasn't what this festival was all about. It wasn't about your flagship beers. It was about let's bring something special that you can only get here. And they hit that nail on the head perfectly. It was
again, I mean, we repeat ourselves a lot when we say, hey, this episode was good or this show was good. But the festival was a really fun festival. Yeah. And the fowling, if you've never been fowling, that was my first time, Julia.
Same, first time.
First time fowling. So much fun.
I'm not good at all, but I had an absolute blast. I got to pretend that I was Joe Burrow for, God, how long were we doing that?
It felt like 3 hours, but honestly, it was probably about like 45 minutes.
But it was great. It was a good amount of open lanes.
If you're in your 30s and up, please stretch, warm up before you do this, because
the soreness is real.
God, the soreness is real.
Yeah.
Man, I took that football. I was the first person. The football was on our side, right? Mm-hmm. So I took the football and I grabbed it and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to do this.
Cool,
so I flung it and I was like, I tore my rotator cuff. It's over. It's over. My arm's
They need
dead.
to have like a sports massage therapist or something
That'd
there
be
as well
great.
to like help us old
Like at
people
inked
once we're done.
instead of tattoo artists, you have shoulder masseuses.
Free ice packs, after
Yeah.
you've been
Yeah.
foaling. The entire event was amazing. There was a little bit of confusion at the end with the transition from the main festival into the after party.
Yeah.
It was nothing that I felt was a showstopper. It was nothing that I felt
No.
ruined the event for anyone.
No.
And I am so excited to see what happens next year with Beer, Booze, and Bonks. So if you did not go this year, you need to go next year. If you did go this year, reach out to the Gnarly Gnome and Cincy by the Pine and let them know. Let them know what you loved. Let them know what you did not love. Just give them your feedback so that they can take that and make next year bigger and better than what this year was.
Yeah, I think it's got legs, Julia. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a fun event. I think that it did a lot to expose a lot of people to the Fowling Warehouse that are probably going to go back. Maybe we get this is me with the ideas again that I can't execute or put together. But Cincy podcasting Fowling competition.
Ooh, Sonder Stories and Shift Beers and Hustle and Brews and the Outcast Podcast and the Gnarly Gnome and Truth, Beer, and Consequences and Beer is Not for Boys and... Am I forgetting any? I think there are a couple more.
You got Crap
Parenting Podcasts. I apologize. I've had
They
years.
were fun to hang out with.
They were a lot of fun. Caroline and Joe.
So,
we got to see in
Caroline.
person. We got to see in person the...
Michael Jackson of German dancing.
It was amazing. It was to a Fergie song. Was that
Yeah,
what
it
you were
was.
dancing to?
It was great.
It was great.
I got like 5 seconds of dance because I asked him, I was like, "Hey, are we gonna see a little bit
We
of
can
the
see this, see some
Michael
action?
Jackson
Yeah.
of German
now,
dance?"
I will say that the action we did not expect to see from them, well, from Joe specifically. Sorry, Joe. I did not expect Joe to finger the bunghole on his cup.
Oh, he
The
did that.
spillage.
He did that. God, he was.
Which I've done before. If you're not familiar with the cups that they have at some like bars and venues that fill from the bottom, there's like a weighted magnetic disc that sits there that when you put it on the I don't know if you want to still call it a tap or not, but when you put it at the location that the beer you want is at,
Yeah,
it
fills
fills
from the
bottom.
bottom.
But it doesn't like permanently seal once you lift it off with the full glass. You can still poke at it and there's a hole in the bottom of your cup basically. That was all kinds of fun. I don't think anyone really got any on them. I think it stayed pretty much on the table. I feel like overall, there were a couple of purely communication shortcomings with the festival. Again, with the transition from the actual festival to the kegs, from the brewers' tents being moved to the bar for the kick the keg section.
Yeah,
but it was
so-
but it was nothing that was a deal breaker for anything. And
No.
the gnome is aware of where some better communication might have helped. I believe Cincy by the Pine is aware of that. And they're going to make it bigger and better next year. So if you were there and you were, I don't know, put off at all by the tents coming down at 10 o'clock and not knowing how to get your cheap pints.
Two things. First of all, as soon as 10 o'clock hit, it was like the lights coming on at a house with like roaches, like all the
Everything's
breweries,
scattered.
all the brewery, the tents came down and all the kegs just like all of a sudden like
Everything was just like gone.
like gone.
And I think I even said to Marco, I'm like, do they not? They know there's an after party, right? They
Right.
know that they're supposed to stick around.
They're like, no,
but
they're
again,
out.
it was just purely a communication issue with everything else going on with putting on this festival. It was just something that the Gnome and Cincy by the Pine and the Fowling Warehouse, they understood what was going to happen. It just wasn't something that anyone else understood.
Another thing,
It's
yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
It's fine. Who
Another thing I
cares?
have to say on the record, on the podcast,
Here
I
we
want
go.
to say one more thing. I need to apologize to Caroline because I was fowling and she and Joe came up behind the cage and we'd been fowling for a while and Caroline is still in a walking boot. By the
Yes.
way, she goes, "Do you need
She's
a
such a-
beer?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "What do you want?" And I said, I really need that oak-aged lavender smoked Helles from Rheingeist.
Rheingeist.
And she
That was
looked
so
at me.
good.
She looked at me and she's like, "Really?" It was all the way on the opposite end of the festival.
Did she bring it to you?
Yes, she did.
Oh my God, Carolyn, you're amazing.
She was so sweet. That was so nice of her.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Caroline.
That's amazing. They are such good people,
They are.
and I do want to shout out. Sorry that you guys know us. We ramble. We talk too much. But Zach, it was great meeting you and the rest of your crew there.
Yep.
It's super fun to get to meet these people that interact with us every week as we release these episodes. But it was a great time. It was absolutely amazing. It was what we all needed, I think.
Yeah.
In the craft beer community.
Yep.
It was what we needed. Shift Beers was there. Aside from Beth wasn't able to make it.
Yeah, Shift Beers were
But
there.
other than that, Matt Damaris was there. He was doing the Vets and Brews.
Vets and Brews, yep.
That he does. So he was there. Mark Miller was there with him from
yep.
Outcast
Podcast.
I believe Diamond was there at one of the sessions. I thought she posted that she was there. I did not see her, but I believe she mentioned. I could be wrong, Diamond. If I'm wrong, let us know. But almost everyone from the podcast community, except Sonder Stories, was there. It was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was great to see everyone.
We got to hang out with the Gnarly Gnome for quite a bit of the time, and
I never found that sixel of Utopias though. They must have had that hidden in the back somewhere.
I know.
Yeah, I know it was there.
Have to crack some skulls up in here
because it's still available.
Yeah, we're gonna talk to them about it. We're gonna get together and figure that out. So It was a lot of fun.
It was.
Only 2 shows covered, and then we covered beer, booze, and bonks.
And all the other B words that we love to throw into it.
All the other B words.
Amazing time. We wanted to do a recap of it because it was put on by Cincy by the Pint and one of our favorite Cincinnati craft beer podcasters. We wanted to make sure that it was not left a chance that you hear about it.
Right, and much like I'm exhausted leading up to Black Friday weekend, and I'm going to be, just working my full head off. The Gnarly Gnome, and I'm sure Cincy by the Pint and the Fowling Warehouse, and everybody worked.
Cartridge and Third Eye, the two main beer sponsors.
They worked extremely hard to make sure this event went off as well as it could.
Agreed.
And the fact that we didn't get a Cincy Brewcast is understandable, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of work to do leading up to this. And there was some big news. The Gnome launched, put out into the stratosphere last week,
and also on the Weekly Pint from yesterday, Monday the 22nd. So check out that recording if you'd like to see that. He is all things Gnome, and we probably wouldn't be here. Well, I know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him and what he does.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if we'd have come together to get this done. I'd like to think that we would have, but
it probably wouldn't have been under the same circumstances.
Yeah, not under the same circumstances. So, great event, Gnome. Thank you, Gnome. Yes. And I think that, anything else, Julia?
I want to tell all of our listeners, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here with us week after week. Follow us. If you like what we're doing, follow, like, subscribe, share. We are at Truth Beer Pod on all of the social medias. You can email us at truthbeerpod@gmail.com. This one's complicated, so it will be in the show notes, but you can buy us a pint. You can sponsor the show by buying us a pint at ko-fi.com/truthbeerpod. If you donate a pint, we'll definitely shout you out on the show as being our sponsor. And we are coming into this holiday season. This episode is going to be released the day after Thanksgiving, but I do want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone that listens and that celebrates Thanksgiving. And rolling into this holiday season, don't stress out about stuff. Just have a beer, have any drink that you would like, and just enjoy each other's company. Be good to each other.
Yes, do that. And I from myself, happy Thanksgiving, happy Black Friday. Thank you for listening to Truth Beer Pod. Like, share, all that kind of stuff. And
I think I want to close out the show with a couple words of wisdom from you, Marco. You had mentioned a couple things that you had wanted to put out into the universe, as we say, as the crow flies. As the crow flies.
I had some thoughts. I wanted to, put them out there. And forgive me, I didn't write them down. This wasn't scripted or rehearsed. This is off the top of my head.
Well, we'll
But
end this show a little bit differently with your words of wisdom instead of our typical fanfare. But Marco, this was a blast as always.
I enjoyed myself as well. I know we've got the holiday coming up, but what are you doing next week on Tuesday?
I'm going to be listening to a whole bunch of podcasts that have to do with beer, and I'm going to be sitting here at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery with my favorite person in the whole wide world, drinking a beer, talking podcasts.
Awesome. I'll do the same.
Cheers.
Cheers. I wanted to take a couple minutes, Marcos, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes,
Take as many minutes as you need.
just to talk a little bit about specialty beers and special beers. With the Black Friday release here, Black Friday, whoa, of all these specialty beers, it got me thinking. And of course, I was listening to Sonder stories, and they were talking about the past year and contemplating about things that were important to them. I think that specialty beers are, of course, special. But I think beers of many or all categories can be special. And I think it plays a lot into the context, right? So you show up at whatever, Dark Charge Day, you get your bottles, whatever they may be. You pick up your macadamia, marshmallow, fluff, French toast, bean dip, whatever it is. And,
I was with you until the bean dip, man.
well, it's a gas.
It will be.
Yeah. So you stash it away, or you have one fresh, and when do you bring those out? When do you have them? You have them when on any given Tuesday night, Marco and Julia show up and, after recording and we're going to talk about whatever, or you have it after you're celebrating a milestone of you moved into a new house. You haven't unpacked. It's cold outside, so you started a fire in your fireplace, and you grab the finest solo cups you have because you still haven't unpacked, and then you pour 3-4 ounces into your glass, and maybe you're imbibing by yourself or with a friend or a loved one, and you pass them a solo cup, and you drink out of that. Or maybe it's going on Thanksgiving to your grandparents' house, and your grandfather doesn't drink anything but Bud Original Heavy, and you share a Budweiser with Gramps. That's a special beer.
Yeah.
It's not a specialty beer, but it's a special beer.
Right.
So as I think about it, for us that love beer, we love craft beer, when you tie those moments together for a thing, an achievement, and an accomplishment, or for a special purpose, those beers, whether they have vanilla and lactose, whether they have fruity pebbles or not, those can be special beers. And so with this holiday season and the 2 years that everybody has gone through, when you raise your glass, whether it's to cheers the brother, sister, mom, or dad that's serving our country, or for the people you've lost, you're not alone. And cheers to you.